Hello, I'm Yoko, and I want to yap about the Amazing Digital Circus now that it's officially over. Disclaimer, the Amazing Digital Circus is not a kid's show, even if it feels like the fandom is only full of kids sometimes. This video will mention some more serious subjects and themes. Beware of trigger warnings. If you have seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. So, younger folk, this video is not aimed at you. This video will also contain spoilers for all of the Amazing Digital Circus. I do recommend watching the show if you are interested. I ended up seeing the finale in theaters with my friends, and I loved it, but didn't start working on this video until after it came to YouTube. And with all the discussions online frying my brain over things I personally thought was obvious, I really wanted to make a yapping video. So let's just hop in. So first off, I was late to this party, starting my watch of the show around when episode 4 was the most recent episode, I believe. But I was immediately drawn into this world. I think all of the characters did indeed get their own moments and time to shine. Though, as Gooseworks has stated, Pomni and Jax are the main characters, so they obviously got the most scenes. I also just wanted to say that just because a story is predictable doesn't mean that it's bad. Would you rather all these clues lead to something solvable, or a bunch of twists out of nowhere that may not always make any sense? Just my personal opinion. Okay, so one major thing I wanted to talk about was canon trans Jax. And this is more targeted at the people who heard the evidence I'm about to say and said, nah, there's no way. Not the genuinely confused people who didn't clue in until being told and educated. It has been confirmed by Gooseworks that Jax is trans femme and has said that you can use he or she for Jax because Jax hasn't come out in the show timeline. Before that confirmation, I felt like I was going crazy watching the fandom. I already had suspicions from watching the show from how Jax reacted to the maid outfit, outside material like Gooseworks' response to certain questions saying that Jax was mean to the women because Jax had issues she hadn't worked out yet. The whole line where Jax says that he's not just a misunderstood chicken fetus in an egg when yelling at Pomni. Like, come on, egg being a thing in the trans community for someone that hasn't realized or come out yet. The whole being skinned and laughed at part really gave dysphoria and fear at being judged. So when I saw the finale and Jax mentions saying something really embarrassing and personal to her mom and Jax got laughed at and then yelled at, and then Ribbit puts the bow on Jax saying Jax's secret is safe with them, I was so excited. I thought that was clear, and even my mom put the pieces together when she did watch the public one on YouTube. And she's not even clued in on anything really in the trans community. She's very not politically correct at times. So I was very surprised she picked up on it, and I did indeed confirm it to her in that scene, then also explaining that people tend to miss it. And then later in the show, when it plays Isn't She Lovely?, my mom was like, how did people not understand this? In between seeing it on theaters and it going to YouTube, I thought I was going crazy or misremembering stuff with how many edits I was seeing with Isn't She Lovely? But as a funny bunny shipping thing. Why did so many people think that montage was about shipping Jax and Pomni together? The original of that song is about a daughter being born. Gooseworks has also said that human Jax, who goes by Lee right now, was boy moding at the bus stop scene, which is when a closeted trans girl does stuff like wearing baggy clothing, having long hair, and hiding your face in pictures. So yeah, first thing I needed to yap about was trans Jax. People always say show don't tell, but when a show has the character exhibit signs of things, but doesn't have them point to the screen and say, hi, I am a closeted trans woman with issues I have not figured out yet, they call it bad writing. Jax is also deeply closeted. Jax would never have just said out loud to the show that she was trans at the point that Jax is at. Also, I've seen people saying that Jax being trans and the backstory that I'll get into later shouldn't fix all of her bad actions, and yes, two things can be true. Not all trans characters need to be morally correct and perfect people. But on the note of trans characters, we also have Zooble in the cast, who I love so much. Zooble being non-binary and according to Gooseworks being okay with any pronouns. Though I have seen many people using only she for Zooble, and that gives me a little bit of an ick personally. Also, this part is probably going to be a really hot take, but I also saw this video about a month ago from another non-binary person, the channel being called Loser is a Yapper, about non-binary representation in media, but they brought up the point that they hate when a non-binary character is in a ship, they automatically get called lesbians or any other gendered-specific labels depending on the gender of their partner. Now, I know that some non-binary people do identify as that, and that's perfectly fine, but seeing someone else bring it up did indeed make me realize that, yeah, that kind of bugs me too when it's always the default. It feels like we're gendering them when labels like Trixic, Toric, It feels like we're gendering them when labels like Trixic, Toric, Sapphic, and Achillean exist. I'm not saying everyone pointing at Zubul and Gangle and excitedly saying lesbians is a bad thing per se. I just personally wish that more labels were used with them and not just only lesbians. I've also seen WLW used for tags for them. Like, guys, no, Zubul is non-binary. Can we stop trying to make Zubul into a woman? That being said, I was hesitant to ship anything in this show due to Gooseworks saying that there would be no canon ships, but politely, Gooseworks, what did you mean by that when there is one scene in the credits of episode 9 with very undeniable implications between Zubul and Gangle? With that said, I do ship them and I think they are so cute. I love the two. Zubul is always there to help Gangle and it's very sweet. While Zubul didn't do much in the first couple of episodes, it became clear that the reason was after Zubul explained their dysphoria, and boy was that relatable as a gender fluid person. I'm so happy human Zubul, aka Riley, is doing well and owns a queer bar, and the last trans representation of the show I did want to bring up was Ribbit, who does use she and they pronouns, though I do not believe we have a confirmation on exactly what Ribbit identifies as. Ribbit could still identify as just a cis girl. But I just kind of love the various representation in the series. So many people were saying that they felt like the other characters were left behind in the finale, and that the show said, guess these guys don't matter, but like, they had other episodes about them, and we see what they got up to in the real world. Ragatha had a lot of screen time in the show, and people keep saying that she didn't. She's friendly and reaches out to Pomni to be friends in the beginning, and people debate over her niceness, over whether it was genuine or fake, and I just wanted to point out that even in the show, Gangle says that she loves Ragatha, but it's hard to tell how genuine she's being. I like Ragatha, but even I was a little uncomfortable at times with certain things I wasn't sure were real or not, and that's okay. That's Ragatha's coping mechanism. She's nice and positive. Contrasting Jax. We see her open up a bit in scenes like when she got the stupid sauce in her eye and said that she missed her horses, and said a bit more things that were a little bit more mean. And later when she started opening up about her toxic relationship with her mom, though we don't hear every detail, I do think we hear enough, and then we see Ragatha struggling with some of the more toxic traits bubbling over, and that's also okay. She can't be positive all the time. She needs to be able to get out the negative feelings and vent sometimes, even if it leads to a bit of a blow-up. She's insecure and hurting because Jax is just mean now after Ribbit being gone, and Ragatha isn't even allowed to bring her up. She's seen being so upset and crying when she thinks Pomni might hate her, and that's when she's told it's okay and sometimes people need space in relationships. Thank you, Kinger, love you. But we get what I consider a nice, satisfying conclusion to that arc with the sweet hug moment that she has with Pomni in the finale. So I don't really get when people say that Ragatha was pushed to the side or forgotten. I'm also happy that she's doing well in real life like pretty much everyone, and did indeed cut off her toxic mother. Gangle also got development in my opinion, being a good representation of masking in episode 4 and also just in general, with their forced positivity in a draining fast food job that was way too close to Gangle's real life situation. And there was a lot of getting hit by a car imagery with Gangle in the series, and while not explained fully, it is mentioned in the real life. Zoe has recovered from injuries, so yeah, Gangle was probably involved in a car accident of some kind. With that note, I have also seen people mad that we never got explained how every character got access to the headset to get scanned in, and that probably is in an abandoned building, and speedrun in my opinion. Ragatha's in real estate, probably got access to the newly closed building at the time. Pomni explores abandoned buildings, and Zubul said that they also did that. And Jax was homeless and probably just found the building to sleep in or something. The only one I personally still have thoughts about how she got access to it was Gangle, but that's okay. Gangle is also a struggling artist who is insecure about their talent and didn't think they could make it as a career. Something very relatable to me since both of us went to college for art but then dropped out. Gangle also being an anime fan, which is fun. She looks so happy seeing that Human Her was out there making a webcomic and seems to be starting that in the circus too, or at least focusing more on her art. I will also say Gangle is undoubtedly an abuse victim of Jax. From day one in the circus, Jax has targeted her, including picking her name. Gangle has never seen nice Jax. Jax has always been a bully and she is miserable around him. Also, in Jax's mind, there was a fictional Gangle that seemed into Jax despite all the hatred, and yeah, that was really awkward, but like Jax said, she was playing things in extremes, and it was shown that Jax said, what? She likes when I'm mean to her. So Jax has very complex feelings considering Gangle, especially when she is debatably the most feminine and weak of the cast, and it is the traits that Jax is trying to avoid in herself. Again, not excusing any of this, but it is interesting to look at it as an explanation of things. When Jax abstracts, she can't cry for him, and that's okay. She later does cry, and that's also okay. As Zubul mentioned, she has a lot of complicated feelings. I hope she's happy now with her friends and Zubul without that constant negativity in her life, and that she can be calm now. And Kinger is amazing. I love him. I am such a big fan of fatherly characters in shows, whether actual dads or a type of found family dads, and Kinger is both, having a family outside the circus. I remember seeing an old comic of Kinger saying, "I love my 4 daughters," with Zubul pointing out, I'm non-binary, but Kinger just responds with, "Oh, I know," and it shows that number 4 was actually Jax. So, that artist called it, like a good group of people, but in the first couple episodes, I just thought Kinger was hilarious, and then we got hit with the traumatic backstory, and suddenly I love him even more. Queenie's abstraction, as well as everyone else's who started in the circus with him, was a giant toll on his mental health, and as we were told, Ragatha is who helped him not go completely crazy, which is really sweet. I love Ragatha. Sane Kinger is a nice grounding force in the show and helps the others where he can, though he did do a giant oopsie when deleting Caine, just fat-thumbed that delete button. One thing I do wish we could see was Scratch's abstraction or backstory, considering that it kind of did seem to be setting that up, learning more about that when Kinger said that Scratch was the first abstraction after Caine mentioned that he can't mess with their minds because something bad could happen, but alas. Kinger is a girl dad with a lot of information, and that being stuck in his sadly damaged mind for the majority of the show. And real quick, Caine was my least favorite character of the show. I don't hate him, I just wasn't really attached or anything. Look, the cast is really strong, someone had to fall flat. And I mostly just wanted to bring up how people were confused about how Caine came back, and I kind of just came to the conclusion that, yeah, actually when you delete something on a computer, it doesn't immediately get deleted. It's usually in the recycling bin, and then you have to empty that. I do like that Caine is attempting to make amends with the cast after removing the blue AI and returning to the circus. He listens now, and that's really sweet. I really don't have much to yap about Caine, because like I said, not my favorite of the cast. I did like Bubble a lot, though it seems like Bubble was probably Caine's intrusive thoughts or something or other. I mean, Bubble never came back, and we didn't get much more on that. Now Pomni. I love her, and I really started to enjoy her after the Gummy Goo incident. She does usually end up being the character involved with someone having a breakdown, even joking about it when Gangle is upset in episode 4, and I've seen people criticize that, but it's not even her every time comforting characters. Kinger comforts Ragatha, Zubul comforts Gangle. There's other moments. Pomni is just a generally nice person who's trying to get closer with the cast, eventually latching more onto Jax. With them getting closer, which makes Ragatha concerned, and considering now we know that Jax's last close friend's abstracted, I kinda get that a little more. I also saw people complaining saying Pomni was weird with Jax when, in her mind, because they were quoting the Pomni that said something like, "I'm the only one who can help you," and that she could fix Jax before the whole strangling thing, but that wasn't even our Pomni. That was the Jax imagining Pomni and doing intrusive thoughts with the whole exaggerated scenarios thing. I love the parallels that they use in the finale episode with the two. With the scene of Pomni falling for the void with everyone else except Jax coming to pull her up, which did indeed happen in the last episode when they pulled her away from abstracted Jax, reassuring her that they're all in this together. But then also showing Jax falling through that same void with Pomni being the one to reach out was nice to see, even if it is too late at that point. I did also see the recent image where Pomni is sitting with Jax in the tent, just eating a sandwich with her. But now let's finally do more Jax talk. Jax has a very sad backstory with a dad that left and an abusive mom, which does explain how Jax reacted to Ragatha's story. Jax as a character was deeply closeted and insecure about showing weakness, hiding softer sides like how she could play the piano. Jax got close to Kaufmo and Ribbit and seemed pretty happy back then, but after getting close and revealing that tragic backstory, Jax pushed Ribbit away, self-sabotaging. This is an explanation, not an excuse, again. As Jax was really bad, ignoring, arguing with, and being very cruel to a past friend, until it was too late and Ribbit abstracted. And big trigger warning because abstraction is a clear metaphor in the show for ending your own life. Which, on that note, people are really upset with Jax abstracting off screen so suddenly, but I fear that is the point. With the real life equivalent of this, it happens alone usually, and people don't exactly get a heads up. People are also mad that we didn't see the process of abstraction, and to that, I point to episode 7 where Jax literally was so close to abstracting and we saw the whole acid trip looking process. I don't think we need to see the physical transformation in the show. I think what we got was fine. People are also upset that Pomni didn't save Jax after all that effort and time, but Jax literally says, "It's too late, I did this to myself." And yeah, sadly it is too late for Jax in the circus. That happens. You wish you could have done things differently or talked or gotten help, but sometimes it's too late. Jax's last words were, "I don't want to go," and that is just heartbreaking. Another part of why Jax probably abstracted is she never saw what Lee was up to in the real world. Last thing Jax knew was that she was on the run and homeless after potentially killing her mom. So it's really nice to see that the real life Lee is having a better time, has friends, and visits Riley's queer bar. It's sweet seeing a happier ending there, and I see Jax as a cautionary tale of what not to be like as a person, while Pomni is kind of an example of maybe something you should strive to be like. Jax really needed therapy, but I feel like people look at the finale as a way that was supposed to redeem Jax or something, when in reality, it was just showing the explanation of Jax, who Jax is. You can still hate Jax as a character because of her actions, and that's fine, but I personally love Jax while also being aware that Jax was a horrible person. Liking a bad character doesn't make you a bad person. I don't like excusing Jax's actions, and I don't think anyone should. But that's basically all I wanted to yap about. I really enjoyed the show, and I'm sad that the fandom made Gooseworks kind of hate it. I don't even have Twitter/X, and I feel exhausted at just some of the shorts I saw on YouTube. Not everything was explained in the finale, but honestly, if it was, it would have been pretty boring to me. Also, some people wanted even more dedicated episodes to backstories of other characters and stuff, but I feel like that would just make the show an anthology. I'm okay with not everything being explained, and I'm content with the peace that the cast has found. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the yap. I welcome chill discussion that is civil in the comments, and I will see you next time. Peace.